Lando Norris just won the World Championship, but the FIA might take it away. New footage from Yuki Tsunoda's car has triggered a last-minute investigation. If this move is ruled illegal, Max Verstappen becomes champion by just 1 point. And now McLaren is splitting from the inside as tension explodes between Norris and Piastri. Subscribe right now because this is the moment the entire F1 world might regret missing. The final round of the 2025 Formula 1 season had just concluded at Yas Marina. McLaren had done the impossible. With Lando Norris finishing third, and Max Verstappen first, the numbers still worked in their favor. Norris, by the slimmest of margins 2 points, was crowned world champion. It was McLaren's first title since Lewis Hamilton back in 2008, and a long-awaited redemption for a team that had been rebuilding for over a decade. Mechanics cried on the radio. Stella raised his fists on the pit wall. The British anthem played, and the headlines were already printing. But behind the scenes, something else had begun. Quietly. In the shadows of the FIA's data center. Less than 6 hours after the checkered flag, technical stewards were handed a copy of a new camera angle. It was footage taken from the rear of Yuki Tsunoda's car view that had not been included in the world feed or post-race analysis. The onboard showed a move in turn 9 that, in the heat of the live broadcast, seemed unremarkable. But this new angle told a different story. As Tsunoda pulled to the inside line, Norris made a sudden movement left under braking. Tsunoda was forced wide. He did not crash. There was no contact. But the steering correction and the space or lack of it raised immediate questions. Was that legal? Was that fair? The incident occurred on lap 27. At that stage, Norris was under immense pressure. Leclerc was closing fast on newer tires. Tsunoda, though not a title contender, had fresher grip and better top speed. The pass looked inevitable. Yet Norris, defending what could be a championship-winning position, chose to fight. His line into turn 9 was defensive, but aggressive. The FIA Rulebook Article 37.5 states that if a rival is already alongside, the defending driver must leave room. Frame by frame, the footage seems to show Tsunoda having enough overlap. Enough to trigger the regulation. Enough to open a case. And now, that's exactly what has happened. Red Bull, who had not launched an official protest on Sunday, changed their stance after reviewing the footage. Their engineering division presented a motion to the FIA competition department late Sunday night. The claim, Norris's move forced Tsunoda off the racing line without space. The consequence, if a time penalty is applied retroactively, Norris drops to fourth. Verstappen gains the title by 1 point. The FIA, under pressure to respond, confirmed Monday morning that the case had been reopened. An internal investigation is now underway, involving race telemetry, GPS overlays, and driver inputs. What was once a footnote is now the headline. The world title, once secured, is suddenly not safe. Inside McLaren, the mood has shifted. What began as celebration has turned to silence. Reports from Woking suggest an uneasy atmosphere in post-race meetings. Piastri, who passed Norris cleanly at the start and finished second, has kept his statements neutral. But those close to the team say there's a visible divide. The two drivers no longer share data the way they did earlier this year. The partnership, once seen as McLaren's great strength, now seems brittle. Some engineers blame Piastri's radio silence during the incident. Others say Norris's defensive instincts may have put everything at risk, not just his title, but the team's integrity. The tension is no longer just on track. This isn't the first time McLaren has faced internal pressure. In past eras, driver rivalry was part of the DNA. Senna and Prost, Alonso and Hamilton. But this feels different. This time, it's not about ego. It's about trust. Did Norris make a move that he believed was fair, or did he cross the line to protect his crown? Did Piastri know about Tsunoda's move but stay silent to let the drama unfold? And what role does team principal Andrea Stella play in managing this rift before 2026 begins? These are the questions being whispered in meeting rooms, paddock corners, and now, across the world. Because this footage and the investigation it triggered is not just about turn 9. It's about the core of racing. Where's the line between brave defense and rule-breaking? When everything is at stake, can a champion be judged by a moment of instinct? Or does intent matter less than outcome? As stewards review every angle, and Red Bull prepares its legal teams, the F1 world holds its breath. The decision could redefine more than one career. And the story is far from over. The incident occurred on lap 27 of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Norris, at that moment, was holding third place. Leclerc was behind, Tsunoda was closing, and Verstappen had already broken away up front. Yas Marina's turn 9, approached at full throttle after a DRS zone, is a known overtaking opportunity. Tsunoda, with better top speed, went for the inside line. Norris made a sharp adjustment left under braking. It was not a double move, but it was sudden. In the live broadcast, the director switched to a midfield battle just seconds before the incident unfolded, which meant millions of viewers never saw it live. But the rear camera from Tsunoda's onboard did. And that image is what reignited everything. The footage, submitted post-race by a third-party technical consultant, was synchronized with GPS overlays and FIA-provided telemetry. It revealed that Tsunoda had front wing-to-rear wheel overlap at the entry to turn 9. At that point, the regulations require the defending driver to leave a car width. Article 37.5, revised after the 2021 season, is clear: drivers must not make a move that results in another car being forced off the track when there is significant overlap. The onboard shows Norris's trajectory cutting inward just as Tsunoda was completing his lunge. It didn't cause contact, but it did force a correction. That, in itself, is grounds for inquiry. Red Bull's engineering group, after reviewing the footage, compiled a time-coded breakdown using 3 data layers: speed trace, throttle lift, and steering input. Their analysis suggested that Tsunoda was forced to decelerate mid-corner, breaking his momentum. The frame-by-frame simulation places the cars within less than 60 centimeters of side-to-side proximity. But here's the critical number: Tsunoda's onboard indicates that Norris left a gap of just 57 centimeters at the narrowest point. The minimum required is 75. The deficit, 18 centimeters. That is now the number that could decide whether Norris keeps his title or loses it. Telemetry from Tsunoda's car also shows a clear lift at the point of entry. His delta, relative to previous laps, drops by 0.2. That may not seem like much, but when mapped over distance, it marks the moment where a move was aborted. FIA race control did not initially flag the incident because no contact was reported. But under the new integrity review process, replays are rechecked when complaints are submitted with supporting technical data. And this one was. The timing was crucial. Red Bull sent their report within 6 hours of the checkered flag. The FIA had no choice but to respond. McLaren, meanwhile, submitted their own interpretation. Their defense hinges on the fact that Norris made only one move, and that the corner demanded a line-tightening entry due to tire wear and brake temperatures. Their engineers argue that Tsunoda was never fully alongside, that his move was opportunistic but incomplete. They also pointed to the lack of radio complaints from AlphaTauri during the race, implying the incident was not seen as dangerous in real time. But what matters now is no longer perception. It is measurable evidence. And for the stewards, that comes in the form of data models, not opinions. There's another layer: Oscar Piastri's on board. Though his car was ahead, his rear-facing camera caught a portion of the moment from the racing line. The angle, while partial, shows Tsunoda's AlphaTauri dipping into the corner, then jolting outward. That visual aligns with Tsunoda's claim that he was squeezed without space to complete the move. When viewed side by side with Norris's own onboard, it paints a picture of defensive driving on the limit. Whether that limit was crossed or just kissed is now the steward's dilemma. The outcome may hinge on how the FIA interprets significant overlap. That definition has been debated since Verstappen and Hamilton in Jeddah, or earlier still in Brazil 2021. If the ruling goes against Norris, even a 5-second penalty applied retroactively drops him to 4th place. Leclerc would take 3rd. Verstappen would win the title by 1 point. And the entire narrative of Abu Dhabi 2025 would change. One move, one corner, 18 centimeters, that is the razor's edge on which a season now balances. Turn 9 at Yas Marina is deceptively simple on paper, but in race conditions it becomes one of the trickiest corners on the calendar. After a long DRS-enabled straight, drivers brake hard into a tightening left-hander, where the inside line is often used for overtaking. However, it's also one of the easiest corners to misjudge, both in attack and in defense. The entry narrows quickly, and any lateral movement at that stage carries a high risk of overlap miscalculation. In this context, Norris's defensive line was always going to be scrutinized. He moved left, defending hard, and with Tsunoda already launching, the moment became explosive within milliseconds. The McLaren MCL39's design philosophy adds complexity to this situation. The car was developed with a high-rake concept, optimized for downforce generation and tire management, but with known weaknesses in rearward visibility. Compared to rivals, the MCL39 has a narrower rear-view camera angle and less effective side mirror coverage in low-speed lateral movement. In other words, it is harder for Norris to know with certainty if a car is directly in the blind spot during a late lunge. However, under FIA rules, visibility constraints caused by car design do not excuse spatial awareness errors. The responsibility remains with the defending driver. That is precisely what the stewards are weighing. There is also the question of intent. Steering telemetry from Norris's car shows a sudden angle change of 7 degrees left just before brake application, which contrasts with his previous laps where he maintained a more linear entry. The angle of turn and throttle lift synchronization suggest a deliberate defensive adjustment. That would be acceptable if Tsunoda had not already established overlap, but data now indicates that he had. His front right tire crossed the midpoint of Norris's rear wing a full 28 meters before the corner. The AI models reconstructed from GPS logs show this clearly. From that point on, Norris was obligated to give room. Whether he knew it or not is irrelevant in the eyes of the rulebook. Tire condition adds another layer to the story. Norris was running a second set of hard compounds, McLaren's unusual too-hard strategy that had helped him control tire degradation. But by lap 27, those tires had passed their peak. Brake temperatures were climbing, grip was fading, and Leclerc was closing the gap. Engineers on Norris's pit wall were feeding him live delta data showing the Ferrari's approach. The threat was real. Allowing Tsunoda through would not only cost time but potentially expose Norris to being overtaken by a direct title rival. That strategic pressure may have played into Norris's willingness to fight harder than normal, especially knowing the championship was still in play. From a race engineering standpoint, McLaren had instructed Norris to manage tires and protect track position without engaging in risky battles. But F1 drivers are not machines. When instincts take over, even the most disciplined race plan can bend. What makes Turn 9 unique is that it compresses those instincts into fractions of a second. Data shows Norris reacted just under 1 second after Tsunoda pulled to the inside. That's not a lot of time, but it was enough to make a choice. And that choice, whether it was calculated or reactive, is now the focal point of the FIA's technical debate.